अबाउट द फर्स्ट चैप्टर राइट. हम लोग फर्स्ट चैप्टर क्लास 11 का डिस्कस कर रहे हैं और इस डिस्कशन में हम लोग कहाँ तक पहुँचे थे. हम लोग पहुँच रहे थे आपके सारे जो इनिशियल एटम्स वगैरह होते हैं या केमिस्ट्री जो आपने अप टू क्लास 10 पढ़ी है हम लोग ने उसको डिस्कस किया. बट जो फर्स्ट स्टार्ट होता है आपके क्लास 11 का वो मेनली होता है कि क्या क्या लॉज हैं और कैसे वो मोल कंसेप्ट नॉर्मेलिटी आती है. और बेटा जी ये आपका ऑल टाइम दिस प्रॉब्लम स्टे एग्जिस्ट ऑल टाइम इफ़ यू वोंट क्लियर एट द फर्स्ट स्टेज. अगर आप पहले स्टेज में इसको क्लियर नहीं करोगे तो आपको पूरी लाइफ टाइम ये आपके नेट, ये आपके IIT JEE RBSE फर्स्ट ग्रेड आपके हर एग्जाम में ये आता है. ओके चलो. तो फर्स्ट क्या है कि लॉज ऑफ केमिकल कॉम्बिनेशन, यही हमने बताया आपको कि देखो केमिस्ट्री में जब हम डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ केमिकल्स को कंबाइन करते हैं या जो भी किसी एटॉमिक रिएक्शन में या मॉलिकुलर रिएक्शन में या केमिकल रिएक्शन में चीज़ें वर्कआउट होती हैं, रिएक्टेंट से प्रोडक्ट बनता है, देयर आर सेवरल लॉज ऑफ केमिस्ट्री और केमिकल कॉम्बिनेशन दैट कंट्रोल दैट. ओके सो योर फर्स्ट लॉ इज लॉ ऑफ कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मास. Second is law of constant composition or definite proportion, law of multiple proportion, law of reciprocal proportion. In this, there are different kind of laws we will study. Okay, Dalton's law, Avogadro's law, all these things. Now, first is that कि experimental verification of the law of conservation of mass. How can I verify this conservation? Okay, now a very famous experiment that is called Landau's experiment. Okay, Landau's experiment, and in this through this experiment we verified this thing, in which I am taking two solutions of sodium chloride and silver nitrate. Okay, and this sodium chloride and silver nitrate is placed in a lantern's tube. Lantern's tube actually beta ji, it is a H-shaped tube. H-shaped tube, which is X-shaped tube, that is Landau's tube. Okay, and the entire experiment is called Landau's, in which we take two solutions of NaCl, that is sodium chloride, and solution of silver nitrate AgNO3. Okay, these two solutions are taken. Where it is taken? In this type of solutions. Now see, I will do the reaction. Okay, that is silver nitrate aqueous solution and sodium chloride aqueous solution. What we get? We will get a white precipitate of silver chloride and sodium nitrate solution and white precipitate of silver chloride. Okay, so after that the reaction, first initially the reaction tube is weighted, then after the reaction again it is weighted, and what we observe there is no change in the weight. So when there is no change, that is entire thing is unchanged, I will say that we verify the law of conservation of mass. So this may be a simple MCQ question. Next, law of constant composition or definite proportion. What this law says? This law says that any pure element combined together to same definite proportion by its weight. By its weight means if there is any compound and they are just combining and form some different compound, elements combine and form a different compound. Now when this different compound is formed, always this comes in a definite proportion only. Okay, so I can say this is law of constant composition states that pure chemical compound always contains same elements combined together in the same definite proportions. For example, suppose that I can directly say there are several examples you can put. Suppose CO2 is simply forming. Okay, CaCO3 is simply decomposing or when I heat, or I can say dilute hydrochloric acid when act with CaCO3, or you can say that by heating sodium bicarbonate. It has been observed that each sample of carbon dioxide contains carbon and oxygen element in the ratio of 3:8 by weight. Carbon dioxide 3:2 by 8 weight always. Okay. So I will say that your pure water can be obtained from many sources. Irrespective of the source, water always contain hydrogen and oxygen and elements combined together in the ratio of 1:8. 1:8 ratio. Okay, always in a 1:8 ratio. Now, although there is a verification of this constant definite proportion, I will say there is some limitations. How can I say? The constant composition does not hold good for compounds using different isotopes. Okay, isotopes, whenever we consider about the isotopes, okay, whenever we use the concept of isotopes, this definite proportion, yeah, constant composition law holds. Okay, I will say constant composition. So what you will say, there is a limitations of the law of constant proportion. Where this law is constant, limitation whenever we are using isotopes. Okay, for example, I know that CO2 is your carbon dioxide, C12 molecules. Okay, and your oxygen molecules is 32. Okay, carbon is 12 and oxygen is 32. But when I am saying that here I am using C12 carbon, but if I use C14 carbon, then what will happen? then it will become 14:32 ratio. 14:32 ratio. So different your isotopes making different. Okay, but compound, the elements may combine is the same. Na? Here also carbon is combining, here also carbon is combining, here is also oxygen combining, here is also oxygen combining. All through the combining elements are same, but when we are considered the isotopes, the compound is different. Compound is different. For example, if you contain C2H5OH, that is your alcohol. Okay, and CH3OCSA, that is your ketone. Both are the same chemical formula, but okay. Now the CHO is 24,616 or 1238. The inverse law is not correct. Inverse law is also not correct. Okay, so these are the exception cases. These are the exception cases. Now says third is your law of multiple proportion. Now this law says that when the two elements combine, suppose we have two elements and they are combining, then the ratio of their masses is a simple whole number. Is a simple whole number. Whole number means it will contain 1, 2, 3, 4 like this way. Okay, suppose that I will give you example properly. Now see, I know that when water is formed, by mass there is 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, right? So they are giving 18 gram. But it is, if I say that hydrogen and oxygen is combining and it is giving a hydrogen peroxide, that is 34 gram. 34 gram because it is O2. In water there is O1 atom, but in hydrogen peroxide there is 2 atom. Okay, so it becomes 34. So therefore you get 1632, which combine to fix mass of these two parts, and it is 1:2 ratio. 1:2 ratio. Similarly, you can see the entire series of your nitrogen. See, N2O, NO, N2O3, N2O4, N2O5. All these parts of hydrogen is written. Combination of oxygen are written. And see, fixed weight of nitrogen 14 parts I have taken, and it is like this way: 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Okay, so these are the fixed proportions. Now, although they are forming multiple compounds, but they are in a fixed proportion. Now see, I will say the reciprocal proportion or law of equivalent proportion. Reciprocal proportion or equivalent proportion. And then they are saying that if two different elements combine separately with a fixed mass of a third element, the ratio in which they do so will be the same or some simple multiple of the ratio. Actually, I make this understand through a simple diagram only. But if in exam I read it, because in exam you have to write something. So as a definition of the law of reciprocal of proportions or law of equivalent proportion, you have to say, see, I have hydrogen, I have sulfur, I have oxygen. Now in this H2S, SO2 and H2O, 3 compounds are forming. Okay, 3 compounds are forming. Now H2S, that means hydrogen 2, sulfur 32, H2O, oxygen 16, hydrogen 2, and SO2, that is 32 and oxygen 32. Okay, so they are saying that when two different elements combine separately with the fixed mass of the third element, fixed mass, the ratio in which they will be the same or some simple multiple. They have to be same or they will simple multiple only. Okay, this is actually I want to make you understand. Now this is the for your note simple. Sulfur dioxide, SO2 क्या है? Sulfur dioxide ही है. So sulfur and oxygen combine in the ratio of 32, that is 1:1. The ratio is related to the 2:1, 1:1 or 2:1. Similarly, you can take sulfur trioxide also, and the ratio will be 3:1. You will get some number. Now Gay-Lussac law of combining volumes. Okay, now from here you have to consider the volume, because in numericals of moles, normality, volumes will be considered. Okay, so see here, Gay-Lussac's law of combining volume. What this they are Gay-Lussac saying? See, when he is talking about gases. First of all, he is talking about gases, and he is saying in that when the one gas is react with the another gas and there is a chemical reaction is going on, the simple ratio of the volume to one to another, okay, one to another of the product, okay, they have to be in a simple ratio if your temperature and pressures are keep constant. Means what I want to say, that suppose one volume of hydrogen molecules, one volume of chlorine molecules, they will provide you 2 volumes of hydrogen chloride, HCl. Okay, just simple addition ratio. Is actually want to say this thing only. Clear? If I take several one volume, then it will give the simple 2 volumes. Similarly, if like this, okay, just like now similarly, if you want to make water vapors, H2O, so your 2 volumes of hydrogen, 1 volume of oxygen, then you are getting 2 volumes of water vapors. That means it is 1/2, right? 2 volumes, 1 volume, 2 volumes. So It is the ratio is 2:1:2. This is a simple ratio. Similarly, in the previous one also there is a simple ratio. 1:2 is 1:1:2. Okay, there is always a simple ratio when the gas combines. Similarly, it is found in the volume of your NH3 also. N2 1 volume, 3 volume, and we are getting 2. The ratio will be 1:3:2. Now see, I am giving a simple numerical problem. What they are saying, if 6.3 gram of NaHCO, see these type of theory class, theory is well understood when you do the numericals. In our time also, when we do numericals, then only we will get good understanding about that. So when we will do some good number of numericals, you will easily understand the questions or the background behind this. Okay. Now they are saying 6.3 gram of NaHCO3 is added to 15 gram of CH3COH solution. The residue is found to weight is 18 gram. What is the mass of CO2 released in the reaction? They are asking the mass of. First you will write the reaction, that is NaHCO3 plus CH3COH is giving you what? CH3CONA plus your H2O plus your CO2. This will be your reaction. Okay, in this reaction they have provided this 6.3 gram, they have provided acetic acid at 15 gram. Now I know that they found the residue in this reaction. What is your residue? Residue is this, because they are asking the value of this CO2. So when I am saying this is a residue and residue is 18.0 gram and their value is CO2, suppose the x gram. Okay, the reactants mass sum is equal to your product mass sum. So I will say that reactant mass is equal to your product mass. So reactants mass will be 6.3 plus your 15 is equal to your residue is 18 plus x. So x value will be what? Minus 18. So 6.3 minus 3, right? So it becomes 3.3 gram. It's very simple. Just you write, use the law, and which law? Law of conservation of mass. Law of conservation of mass. Okay. Next. Now next question is carbon and oxygen. Carbon and oxygen are known to form compounds. Okay, the carbon contained in one of these compounds 42.9%, while the other is 27.3%. So that the data are agreement with the law of multiple proportion. Law of multiple proportion is their ratios will be, we have to find. Okay, now first compound carbon is 42.9. The mass of oxygen will be what? Percentage na. So 100 times minus that one, the mass of oxygen will become. In the second compound it is 27.3%. So 100 minus 27.3. So it is this one. Okay, now in first part, carbon combining with 51 gram of oxygen is giving itna gram. So mass of carbon combining with 1 gram of oxygen will be this na gram. In the second, your mass of carbon combining itna gram of oxygen, so is how much? 27. So 1 gram of oxygen they are combining this part. The ratio of the mass of the carbon with the fixed mass of oxygen is 2:1. Okay, so therefore I have prove the law of multiple proportion in a simple way. This is a very simple example. This is an NCERT question also. So just try. After the class, you just try this one. Next, 2 gram of a metal burned in oxygen giving 3.2 gram of the oxide. Okay, how much gram? How much it is? So 3.2 gram of its oxide and 1.42 gram of the same metal heated in the steam gives 2.27 gram of oxide. Which law is in the data? I have to search out the law. So see, it is very easy. First compound, it is containing 3.2 gram. Okay, there is some metal. I don't know what is the metal, but 2 gram contain itna gram of metal, and 100 gram of metal oxide contain with how much metal? We have to divide it and then multiply 100, so we will get the percentage. In the second compound, it is 2.27 gram of metal oxide contains metal itna gram. So 100 gram it contains how much? We will get the percentage. And see, the metal in the second compound is 62.55. Thus the percentage of metal in the metal oxides obtained from the experiment is nearly same. So they are saying the law of constant composition. Law of constant composition. Why it is law of constant composition? Because whatever metal oxide they are forming, either metal oxide first or metal oxide second, maybe the amount of metal is different. The amount of metal oxide is different, but see, in this 20 gram of metal and in this they contain 1.42 gram of metal, but the see, contain gram of metal oxide, it is metal oxide, the gram of metal. In this the metal oxide contain itna gram, but the original contribution is your same. Now next, Next question, they are saying phosphorus and chlorine form two compounds. The first compound contains itna percentage mass of the phosphorus and itna mass of chlorine. In the second compound, the percentage are this of phosphorus and this for chlorine. Show that the data consistent with the law of multiple proportion. Now I have to show the data that it is consistent with the law of chemical composition. How can you show this? See, try to do yourself, then I will do for you. I am just hiding this one. Okay, so देखते हैं कि what they are doing that first compound phosphorus percentage 22.54 and the second compound chlorine first compound chlorine percentage is 77.46. Okay, now these two are combining. These two are combining. In the second also the percentage is given, and then again they are combining. Okay, now I will fix the proportion of the mass of the phosphorus, that is 1 gram. So different masses of chlorine which combine with 1 gram of phosphorus in the two compounds. I have to fix one and then I will calculate the other one is your chlorine. Okay, so for first what I will say, the mass of chlorine which combined itna is phosphorus is this. The mass of 1 gram of phosphorus is this. Similarly, see 1 gram calculation just right now we have done, just अभी इसके previous वाले क्वेश्चन में ही हम लोगों ने किया था 1 ग्राम वाला. सिमिलरली इसके लिए भी हम लोग 1 ग्राम वाला कैलकुलेट कर देंगे. ठीक है, तो हमारे पास रेशियो क्या मिला, 3:5 का मिला, राइट, 3:5 अप्रॉक्सीमेटली. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड मल्टीपल प्रोपोर्शन, लॉ ऑफ मल्टीपल प्रोपोर्शन. हम 2-3 क्वेश्चन सेम टाइप के इसलिए कर रहे हैं सो दैट आपके दिमाग में ये चीज़ बैठ जाए. नेक्स्ट क्या है, 3 ऑक्साइड्स ऑफ लीड ऑन एनालिसिस वर फाउंड दैट लीड as contain lead. How much lead is contained? That is 3.5 gram of yellow contain 3.21 gram of lead, 1.195 gram of brown oxide contain 1.035 gram of lead, and 1.77 gram of red oxides contain 1.6 gram of lead. Show the data listed the law of multiple proportion. It is very easy. इतने सारे किए हम लोगों ने अभी, तो ये आपके लिए easy होगा, राइट. चलो देखते हैं. ये हम लोग सारा डेटा लिख लेंगे. अगर टोटल में ऑक्सीजन का अमाउंट जस्ट माइनस करके पता चल जाता है, ऑक्सीजन का अमाउंट पता चल जाएगा, ऑक्सीजन अमाउंट पता करके चल जाएगा. ठीक है, अब क्या कह रहे हैं, किसी एक मास को फिक्स कर देते हैं. मान लो हमने लेड को फिक्स कर दिया, तो हम ये कहेंगे कि भैया येलो वाला जो कंपाउंड है उसमें इतना मात्रा है, तो लेड की इतने मात्रे ऑफ ऑक्सीजन में लेड की मात्रा कितनी है, व्हाट इज द अमाउंट ऑफ लेड. ना इन दैट अमाउंट ऑफ लेड 1 ग्राम ऑफ लेड में कितना होगा, तो हम लोग उसको कैलकुलेट कर लिए. ठीक है, सिमिलरली हमने ब्राउन वाले के लिए किया, सिमिलरली हमने रेड वाले के लिए किया. और देखो मास का रेशियो क्या क्या आता है. एक में आया 0.075, 0.15 इतना, तो इनका रेशियो मैं ऐसे नहीं निकाल सकती. सिंपल निकाल सकते 3:6. ठीक है, एक को बेस मान लो, बाकी को जब डिवाइड करोगे तो ये रेशियो निकल जाता है. क्लियर है. आपका एक होल नंबर चाहिए बस. नेक्स्ट, two oxide of metal contains इतना percentage oxygen respectively. If the formula of the first compound is M3O4, find the formula of the second compound. एक कंपाउंड का फॉर्मूला दिया है, सेकंड कंपाउंड का फॉर्मूला निकालना है. रेशियो पा लो तो रेशियो निकल जाए, निकल जाता है. ठीक है, देखो इसने कैसे किया. फर्स्ट कंपाउंड में ऑक्सीजन और मेटल ये है, सेकंड कंपाउंड में ये है. फॉर्मूला फॉर फर्स्ट कंपाउंड M3O4 हो गया. सपोज द वेट ऑफ मेटल इज x, तो परसेंटेज ऑफ मेटल इन द कंपाउंड में 100 से मल्टीप्लाई करके हमने निकाल दिया. ठीक है, अब ये कैसे आ जाएगा, इक्वल टू इतना है, ये दिया हुआ है, x की वैल्यू फाइंड आउट करो. अच्छा, नाउ इन द सेकंड मेटल ऑक्साइड, मेटल एंड ऑक्सीजन आर 70% एंड 30%. 70 और 30% का रेशियो है, तो देयरफॉर द एटॉमिक रेशियो विल बी व्हाट, m:2. इसको डिवाइड करो तो 2:3 का है, तो M2O3. ये बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल है, इसको इम्पॉर्टेंट भी है, करना प्रैक्टिस के साथ. ठीक है, स्टार बनाना. क्वेश्चन क्या है, हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड कंटेन्स 94% ऑफ सल्फर, वाटर कंटेन इतना, हाइड्रोजन एंड सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड कंटेन इतना ऑक्सीजन. शो द रिजल्ट एग्रीमेंट विद द लॉ ऑफ रेसिप्रोकल. वही 3 वाला पार्ट जो मैंने अभी सिखाया था आपको, जो मेन वाला बनता है तीनों के उससे. देखो एक में वाटर है, एक में SO2 है, ठीक है, और एक H2S है. 3 चीज़ें आपके पास है. ठीक है, तो ये ट्रायंगल बनाओ. ठीक है, और सबका परसेंटेज, जैसे कि मान लो कि मास ऑफ हाइड्रोजन क्या है, इतना है, तो ऑक्सीजन निकल जाएगा 100 में से माइनस करने पर. मास ऑफ सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड निकल जाएगा 100 से माइनस करने पर. तो मान लेते हैं कि उसने ऑक्सीजन का अमाउंट फिक्स कर दिया. ठीक है, 1 ग्राम. तो H2O में 1 ग्राम के लिए कैसे होगा, SO2 में 1 ग्राम के लिए कैसे होगा, इसका निकालोगे तो तुम्हारा क्या निकलेगा, रेशियो निकलेगा. अभी तक जो हम लोग रेशियो निकालते आ रहे थे 1:8 का रेशियो निकला. अब H2S का निकालो. H2S में भी 100 से माइनस कर देंगे तो एक रेशियो निकलेगा, वो 1:16 का रेशियो निकलेगा. देखो ये 2:1 का रेशियो, तो गोल नंबर में आया ना, गोल नंबर में आया, इसलिए ये रेसिप्रोकल का प्रोपोर्शन शो कर रहा है. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट ये वाला क्वेश्चन करिए, सेम टू सेम करो. ओके.